great to see you back here for this week's instalment of Homesales, Your Next Move. I'm Bradley Beer, CEO of the BMT Group, and I'm really enjoying bringing this show to you each week. If you're an investor or a property buyer looking for expert tips in property, you'll find them here on this show. On tonight's episode, Tara Bradbury is updating us on the latest property news. We'll chat with John Stanley from Key Property Solutions about asset and portfolio management. In our latest tips and tools for property investors segment, our Homesales Buyer Toolkit looks at MyBMT. For now, we'll cross to Tara Bradbury from the BDM Academy to bring us all the recent property news for this week.
Thanks, Brad. In this episode, a recent real estate report from Local Agent Finder showed that 3/4 of the property owners are planning to sell their property and are expected to do so over the next 2 years. The Domain House Price Report for September quarter found that Australian house prices as a nation fell by 2.9% over the year, just over $750,000. It also found that unit prices were down by 1% over the September quarter and 1.4% over the year to $549,000. First home buyers are capitalising on falling house prices, oversupply and investor restrictions, jumping into market rates that have not been seen in 8 years. CoreLogic Head of Research Tim Lawless recently reported that buyers are starting to take the lead in the market, with a higher number of homes up for sale because of the hike in the new listings. Fresh stock additions are trailing nearly 4% lower than in the same period last year. This is the category's lowest season level since 2012. Lawless associated the drastic downshift of the new listing numbers with weak vendor confidence as a result of the weakening market and more difficult selling conditions. Well, that's all from me, Brad. Thanks for tuning in to the latest property news, and I'll see you all again next week.
Are you interested in investment properties and strategies? Our next guest, John Stanley, combines this plus finance and property management within their business at Key Property Solutions. He's a director and an expert in asset and portfolio management. Let's see what he had to say.
Key Property is a business that was formed some years ago now, basically just to look for investment properties for our growing client base. We work more so in the markets on the eastern seaboard, so really Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne. We also have offices there that look after rentals and property management, so if a person purchases a property through us, we'll locate a tenant for them and manage it on an ongoing basis.
You predominantly work in a lot of new property and some of it's been off the plan or new stock. What are some of the things that you look for in the properties that you choose for clients?
Probably one of the most important things is really the gap between, say, the price of a new unit and perhaps an old house in any given suburb. It really does tell us a lot about the suburb. What we see in some places is that gap can be fairly narrow, and owner-occupiers make up the vast percentage of the market. So we want to appeal to those owner-occupiers when one of our clients comes to sell that property at some point down the track. And the way to do that is to try and have as big a gap as we possibly can between the price of a unit and a house.
Currently, you've worked across the eastern seaboard. I know you've been over the years a lot of Sydney property and a bit of Brisbane, bit of Melbourne. Where are you looking at the moment and why, John?
We're probably doing the majority of our work at the moment in Melbourne, and we are doing some in Brisbane. The Sydney market's tough at the moment as far as returns is concerned. We're also seeing the rental market in Sydney soften a little bit at the moment too. Brisbane's rental market's been soft for a while, but it is starting to recover. And Melbourne is, it's certainly our strongest rental market right now. And one of the great things about having a rental business is we see those changes at the coalface every single week.
You're trying to put people into these properties, so when you can't fill them, then obviously they're harder to fill, right?
That's right, and we don't want to have any long periods of vacancy.
Obviously the banks, between the APRA rules, the banks tightening, the Royal Commissions that have been going on over the last little while, a little bit harder for investors to loan money and just people in general to loan money for property. How have you seen that affecting your clients at the moment, John?
It's been an issue for people who are looking to purchase off the plan. It may be that someone might buy something off the plan, exchange a contract, the building doesn't complete for 6, 12 months, sometimes even 2 years. And if the banks change their rules in that period, then there's potential that they might not be able to grab some finance when it's required. So we're very cautious about looking at things off the plan at the moment for that reason. I think it's probably slowed the market to a degree, the Royal Commission and certainly the APRA changes. But we'll have to see what happens going forward with that.
Sometimes it moves up when you buy off the plan and sometimes it moves down. You can't unfortunately have the crystal ball that tells you where the markets are going, can you? John, you've been in the industry for 25 years and you would have seen a lot of change in the knowledge base with clients around buying property. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, look, it's fantastic. The amount of information out there at the moment, both available on the internet and elsewhere, is amazing. If you want to look at any particular suburb or location, there'll be a report on it. There's always information available for everyone looking at the moment. So I think it's probably made our job a little bit easier, but at the same time, it's made it a little bit more difficult too, because we do need to sift out the important stuff from the not so important stuff. But in all, I'd say it's one of the great changes that's occurred over the last 20 years in particular.
I think it's always good. You know, there's plenty of good and bad stories about investors that have been either burnt some way and a lot of made money. The more, I guess, information they have available that helps them to make better decisions, which makes, as you say, sometimes your job easier and sometimes your job harder. John, international buyers, obviously governments have clamped down on those over the last little while. You would have seen changes, especially selling a lot of new stock over the last few years. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, international buyers, I think, have probably been one of the number one impacts that there's been on our market in the last 5 years in particular. There's been more overseas buyer activity in Australia, I think, in the last 5 years than ever before. And look, I think they were probably one of the major reasons why our market really grew. Upsides and downsides, I guess. Perhaps one of the downsides is that local people need to will need to compete with those overseas buyers. So perhaps it's more difficult for our young people to get into the market. But of course, if you're already in the market and they've influenced the prices in a positive way, then it's obviously great for your portfolio.
One final question. There's a lot of things around contracts that are a little bit different to buying a house that you're seeing sometimes. What are some of the top tips for investors that you've got around that? At
the moment, banks have put a fairly onerous requirements on developers and builders to require or to satisfy a pre-sale requirement. So you need to be sure that if you're buying something off the plan, that the pre-sale requirement is at least close to being satisfied. If they require 60% to be pre-sold and only 10% are sold, well, it may not get built. I think that's the biggest risk at the moment, is that things are being sold that may never happen. And the sunset date in most of these contracts is 5 years. So you can be sitting around with your money somewhere tied up for 5 years and have no way of getting out of it. So I think that would be the number one thing, is just making sure that the project will proceed as planned. Yeah, there's a few horror stories around those things happening. John, thanks for coming in today. It's been a pleasure to take some of your knowledge over 25 years of experience. No, thanks very much for having me on, Brad.
When you're looking to buy a property, there's a lot to consider. PropCalc, the new tool from homesales.com.au, can help. This one-of-a-kind research tool allows you to input purchase costs as well as ongoing expenses, so you can accurately calculate how much it will cost to own your property. Plus, you can upload photos and notes about multiple properties and compare property results to make an informed purchase decision. All this information moves seamlessly from your desktop to the app, so you have all the information you need on the go. Use homesales.com.au and our one-of-a-kind tool PropCalc to access the most comprehensive property data on the market. homesales.com.au, your next move.
Imagine this: a complete online education course, 4 months support, monthly live and interactive webcasts delivered by me, regular online group meetings which I personally host, personal consultations with qualified property investment advisors, finance setup and structuring by senior finance specialists, investor cloud tools and resources, and more, all for under $2,000? Just watch my short video with no catch to see how I can help you become a skilled property investor for a fraction of the cost to get a buyer's agent to buy you just one property.
To find out more, go to destiny.com.au and click on What We Offer, or call us on 1300 My Destiny.
Destiny, helping Australian property investors for more than 23 years.
Now to our Property Buyer Toolkit segment, and another great tool for you to help you manage your depreciation schedules as your portfolio grows. MyBMT is the latest complimentary service from BMT Tax Depreciation for property investors. It's an interactive portal that helps you to manage the details relating to your investment property and their schedules, all in one central location. With MyBMT, you can view, update, and download your depreciation schedules, upload photos and receipts, and share your schedules with your investment team. This is especially useful for your accountant. MyBMT also has an exciting new Research and Insights feature that helps you to learn more about the area in which a potential investment property is located. This feature allows you to discover newly listed properties in the area, as well as important metrics such as recent census data and information that can help you decide whether to take on an investment property. It also informs you of any lodged planning applications and new developments in the area, so there are no surprises after purchase that could decrease the property's value. Using the MyBMT Research and Insights feature, you can also generate a metric-based valuation for your investment properties that have a depreciation schedule. It's easy to use and something that all investors should be looking at. Just visit mybmt.com.au to register whenever you're ready. And that's the show for today. Make sure you tune in next week for more property tips and tricks. This episode will be on demand all week. Watch My Property TV for a great lineup of other property shows such as The Strata Show, Property Investing Matters with Margaret Lomas, and The Money Plan. For access to our latest tools for property investors, or check out our website, go to homesales.com.au, or follow us on social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Have a great week, and I'll be right back here again next week.